little girl, and she will always cry shouting, "Daddy, please stop, Daddy, it's paining me, Daddy, it's scary." In a town called Calabar, there lived a little girl named Victory. She was just 5 years old and she lived with her parents Mr. Anthony and her mother Agnes. Victory was a very beautiful girl who had a beautiful smile, but unfortunately she never got to smile because she was not happy in her own parents' home. It all began one day when Victory was in her room and her father Mr. Anthony walked in. He said to her, "Victory, I want to show you what it means to be a woman, but you must not tell anybody. It is a secret, make sure you don't tell anyone." Little Victory did not know what her father meant, but she trusted him. Of course, he is her father and she trusted whatever her father said. Mr. Anthony started having intimacy with his 5-year-old daughter. He forced himself on the little girl, and she will always cry shouting, "Daddy, please don't do this to me." But Mr. Anthony would not listen. Victory didn't understand what was happening. She only felt a sharp pain down below that scared her and it was hurting her. She ran away most times, but Mr. Anthony will always catch her by force. 5 years old Victory was traumatized. You must be wondering where Mrs. Agnes, her mother, had been while this is going on. Stick with me in this story. Mrs. Agnes owned a very big shop in the city. She owned the biggest fabric shop in the city where everyone comes to buy from her at wholesale prices. She was always in her shop. She was so much into her business that she never cared to know what is happening in her home. Mr. Anthony, on the other hand, was a man who worked from home, creating websites for company, so he had the time to commit the atrocities he's committing because he was always at home alone with his daughter Victory. One day, Mrs. Agnes was sitting on the dining table calculating and counting money as usual. That is all she cared about. Then Victory walked up to her and said, "Mommy, why does Daddy hurt me when you are not around?" Victory's voice was small and trembling, but her mother Agnes didn't even look from the pile of papers spread across the dining table. Agnes was a very busy businesswoman, always focused on her shop and money. Nothing else mattered, and she responded to Victory's question, "Victory, please not now." Flipping through her ledger, her attention was fixed on the numbers. "Can't you see that I'm busy? You know how hard I work to make sure we have enough. Just go and do your homework." "But Mom," Victory said again, her voice cracking as she stood there clutching the hem of her shirt, desperate for someone to listen to her. "Victory, I said I am busy." Agnes snapped, finally looking up, her eyes flashing with impatience. "You always bring up silly things when I'm trying to work. Go to your room." Victory swallowed hard, her words dying in her throat. She wanted to scream to beg her mother to hear her, but she knew it was pointless. Her mother never listened, never seemed to care about anything but the shop. So Victory turned quietly and went to her room, her heart heavy with a secret she was forced to carry alone. Mr. Anthony continued to sneak into Victory's room every night, and whenever Madame Agnes went to the shop, he always had his way with his daughter. He would always tell Victory to keep it a secret, that he was only trying to make her feel like a woman, and Victory would always say, "Daddy, but it is always painful. I don't like it. I'm going to tell Mommy." And the father would always shout at Victory, "Let me tell you, if you ever tell anybody, you will die. Or do you want to die?" And out of here, innocent Victory will say no and she will keep it to herself, but deep down she needed someone to talk to. She needed attention. She needed someone to express her pains and feelings to. Oh dear Victory, she wanted to talk to her mother, but her mother never gave her a listening ear. It was as if she was all alone in the world. Her father, who was supposed to be protecting her, was committing all of this with her, and her mother, who was supposed to be her guardian angel, was never available for her. One evening, Victory was sitting at the staircase crying, her eyes swollen. She had gone to her mother again, hoping, praying that this time Agnes would listen, but he had ended like all the other times. "Mom, can I talk to you? It's about Daddy," Victory had whispered, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table where Agnes was counting her money. Agnes didn't even look up. "What is it now?" "Victory, you are always complaining about something." Victory's heart pounded in her chest. "It's about what Daddy does when you are not home." She couldn't bring herself to say it. The words felt like they would burn her throat. "Victory, I don't have time for this," Agnes said sharply, slamming the file of cash down on the table. "You are always making up stories. Daddy works hard to take care of us and you're just trying to cause trouble. You, this little girl, I'm not in for this, please." She left. But Mom, please, Victory's voice broke, tears streaming down her face as she begged her mother to listen. I said enough, Agnes yelled, her patience snapping. If you're not happy staying here, maybe I should call Auntie Mary to come and take you for holiday. You will go and stay somewhere else. Stop being so dramatic, you're just trying to get attention. Victory was turned into silence. She felt the walls of her world closed on her. No matter how hard she tried, her mother always shut her down. No matter how much she cried, Agnes never believed her. The one person who was supposed to protect her couldn't even see her pain. The next morning, Victory sat at the breakfast table, her eyes dull and lifeless. Agnes was already dressed for the day, her bag packed with other sweets and money. Make sure you behave today, Victory, Agnes said, kissing the top of her head absently, not even noticing the tears brimming in her daughter's eyes. I have to meet an important client. As soon as Agnes left the house, Mr. Anthony's mood changed. He smiled at Victory in a way that made her skin crawl. The man was a monster hiding in plain sight. Weeks went by and the same pattern continued. Victory tried to tell her mother again and again, but Agnes was too consumed by her business. She always dismissed Victory's cries for help, calling her dramatic or to be sensitive. Every time Victory tried to speak up, Agnes would say things like, "Don't you see how hard I'm working? You are lucky to have a roof over your head." Victory stopped making up complaints. She gave up. After a while she stopped trying to talk to her mother, hoping that none would save her. She retreated into herself, becoming quieter, her laughter fading into silence since grill was for Victory. So one day, Agnes finally caught a glimpse of the truth. She returned home early from work, something she never did, and behold, she found Mr. Anthony in Victory's room, doing the very thing Victory had tried to tell her about. She met her husband Mr. Anthony having intimacy with her 5-year-old daughter. Agnes' world crumbled in an instant. She screamed, pushing Mr. Anthony away and crying in her arms for the first time. She realized what her daughter had been trying to tell her all along. Agnes called the authorities, and Mr. Anthony was taken away. In his defense, he said Agnes, his wife, was not always available for him. Agnes was always busy with her business, and he needed companion and company. Can you imagine the defense? Dear viewers, is that an excuse? Anyway, Victory was taken for counseling where she slowly began to heal from the trauma she had endured for so long. Agnes, wrecked with guilt, quit her business and dedicated herself to rebuilding her relationship with her daughter. She had learned the hard way that money and business couldn't replace the love and care a child needs. As for Mr. Anthony, the monster father, he was sent to life in prison and he spent the rest of his life in jail. The moral of the story is simple: always listen to those who come to you with their pain, especially children. Ignoring their cries for help can lead to more suffering. You never can tell what they have in mind to say to you. No amount of money or success is worth losing the ones you love. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a lesson to be a good parent, to be a listening parent, not a mother like Agnes and not a father like Mr. Anthony. If you haven't subscribed, my dear, you are missing out. Thank you so much. I don't take your support for granted. See you on our next video.